aim for something, like I'm gonna follow my rules at least 80 to 90% of the time. I think so many people spend so much time on the tech. The most money that I made was because I was accumulating capital, not because I was trying to hit bigger trades. You're never gonna find out if a strategy works if you don't stick with it.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Here I'm sitting with Kyle, also known as JadeCap, and he's accumulated over $1.3 million in payouts. So I'm really excited to get into this interview. So let's get started. So what would you say is the biggest thing that trading taught you about yourself personally?
Wow, that's a really great question to start off with. I think it probably taught me that I was just extremely impatient. That was probably one of the biggest things that I think I already knew I was impatient, but trading has a way of like magnifying your characteristics, and you kind of really quickly find out who you are. Like, yes, you can be impatient. I already knew I was impatient, but you have to kind of accept that you're impatient, because before people would be like, you're impatient or you're lazy or you're a procrastinator, and you just be like, yeah, whatever. And you didn't really accept it. But when I started trading, since it's just you, there's no like external factors or anything going on that influence you. Yeah, you kind of just recognize like I'm making impulsive decisions or impatient decisions, and yeah, I'm really being affected by it.
Yeah, to add on what you were saying, it's like in normal people's jobs and day-to-day life, if you're impatient, it doesn't really affect much in your life, right? You can just
well, you can tell, you can feel yourself getting like frustrated with people and stuff.
But like in terms of like the amount of money you bring in or anything, it doesn't really affect you, so you don't have to deal with it. So yeah, like you said, trading, like you have to deal with it, or else you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, because when you're impatient at just like a regular job, you're just like, you know, this person's just kind of ticking me off, but nothing really happens from that.
So how were you able to overcome that?
I think just over the years, like I think as I grew older, I got more and more patient with people. But I think it was because too, my father would like get on my nerves like really, really badly. And I found a way of like really dealing with him, because he would just drive me up a wall sometimes. And, you know, I think my relationship with him going back and forth sometimes, because he was stubborn and I was pretty stubborn, it taught me to have patience, because I avoided a lot of conflicts as I grew older by just having more patience with him, just because I knew he wasn't like a logical person. So if you try to argue with him, he's like, no, this is the way, you know, he's kind of set in his ways. So every time I tried to argue with him, it would just make things worse. So instead, I just kind of just like, you know, I guess eased off of him and just didn't argue with him whatsoever. And I think having that patience with somebody that's like that probably made me a more patient person.
Like that naturally flowed into trading, because in your personal life, you built more patience with your relationship with your dad. By the way, my dad's like the same way. It's like he'll just kind of get into some rants, and I kind of you just have to like pick and choose your battles sometimes. And that's really about like growing up essentially, and you pick and choose your battles with some people.
Yeah, and I think that kind of made me like more reserved when talking to people. I don't know. I just like letting people kind of go off and say what they need to say. And I kind of just observe a little bit before I try and respond, because I don't know, I was very quick to respond to certain things that he would say, and it would like, you know, like without thinking about how he's going to react, right? It's just like, all right, you're yelling at me, I'm just going to start yelling at you back, you know?
Okay, makes sense. So the other day we were talking about discipline. I feel like a lot of traders talk about that you need to have disciplined approach to the marketplace. So can you expand more about what that means to you?
So to me, like you were just mentioning David Goggins, right? And David Goggins is like so hardcore with discipline. It's like, if you don't do this, you're an idiot. But I kind of don't take that same approach. I think you can be disciplined for the majority of time, which is great. That's kind of what you're working towards. You just don't want to be undisciplined, you know, 80% of the time. It's not like you don't want to be a robot. I think it's very inhuman to do. Like, I'm going to work out on this regimented, you know, routine. And if I miss a day, I'm a failure. You know, I don't think people should really, that shouldn't be people's goals. I think eventually you can work towards that, but it's also okay to like take a break. Maybe just have a day where you don't do anything, you know, or have a cheat meal. That's fine. But I don't think people should hold themselves to that high of a standard where it's like, if I'm not disciplined, then I'm a failure. Because then, you know, when you have small setbacks, it's like, it
then you're
really impacts you. Like it impacts your confidence
and you're
because
more
you have
likely to
such a
quit
high
then.
standard.
I think that you're more likely to quit if you don't achieve perfection. It's like can't be like an all or nothing thinking. I think a lot of
Yeah, and
people fall
maybe
into
it works
that.
in other industries, but in
Yeah.
trading, it's not like that. To me, it's not like that because
Yeah.
if you're trying to be like disciplined and say that I need to win today or
Yeah.
something stupid like that
Okay.
that doesn't translate to trading.
So for you, like what does like discipline mean in the trading sense of the word?
The
Like
trading sense of the word, because I know some great traders that still break rules. So
yeah.
it's not like you're ever going to get to the point where you never make mistakes or you never break your rules. You just
Okay.
have to understand that when you do break your rules or make mistakes, that they're small and you can manage them properly. They're not
Mhm.
like huge mistakes that they set you back entirely or blow your account. So I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
when you're trying to, I guess, build discipline around trading, and you're trying to be perfect, but nobody's perfect. So I think through experience, I've just gotten to know myself a lot more. Where I can have bad days, I can have bad weeks, and I guess I'm just okay with it.
Okay. So then you're just basically saying that when you do break a rule that the mistake is going to be
It's
smaller.
gonna be,
So
yeah, it's
you're
gonna be
going to have like
smaller.
discipline is for me at least having your own guidelines and rules that you follow like okay, two trades in
The
a
majority of the
session.
time, like if you're
Yeah.
gonna aim for something,
Yeah.
like I want to follow my rules at least 80 to 90% of the time, right?
Okay.
So as far as like the mistakes go, I still make mistakes. I just try and be 90% of the time very disciplined. There's
Okay.
gonna be the 10% of the time where I'm undisciplined and I kind of break my rules, but I'm never breaking my rules to the point where I'm gonna blow my account. So
Okay.
like if I try and stick to like 1 to 2 trades a day, maybe I have a day out of, 1 day out of the month where I'm taking 3 or 4 trades.
Okay.
It's not like I'm going so overboard because, I'll break that rule and just, I understand I'm breaking the rule real time. And it's just, you slip up sometimes. And it's like, all right, well, I made a mistake, but I'm still here. I'm just going to reset, get off the
Mhm.
charts
Mhm.
and get a workout in, kind of reset, get away from the markets, try not
Mhm.
to think about it too much and just get back in sync.
Do you have like a set cooldown like scenario after every trading session? Do you have a cooldown session?
Yeah, so pretty much like I'll get off the charts and I'll try either I'm gonna journal right after
Okay.
or uh go to the cold plunge. Like typically I'll go to the cold plunge at like 11:30. I mean, it's
Okay.
like
You
a
do that every
complete,
day?
yeah, not every day, but
Well,
like
okay.
pretty much every day.
Wow.
I mean, it's a
I mean,
sauna
that's
cold
cool.
plunge. It
Sauna
gets
and the
me,
cold
yeah, it
plunge.
gets me off the
Wow.
charts and it's just like
Wow.
it's I mean,
No, it's
it's
really good for
painful, but it's
you.
like a quick reset.
No, like cold plunges are scientifically proven to help you
Yeah.
even just like release it helps you
Mhm.
get go through the whole arc of stress.
Yeah. So if you didn't know this, like it spikes your dopamine levels like extremely high. So
Hmm.
when you're getting those like
Yeah.
small dopamine hits, it kind of regulates so you're not going overboard.
Yeah, like
So I get the dopamine
I
spike from
thought it
like a
was
cold plunge.
it's a better release of dopamine. It's a large surge, but it's like way healthier
Yeah.
than anything else, like other people's vices, like,
Yeah.
gambling, drugs, and
Trading in the
whatever.
markets,
There's,
like
I honestly have, there's a really good book called Dopamine Nation.
yeah, I think we were chatting about it. I was
I
asking if you
love it.
liked it.
Yeah, I love it. I recommend it. I mean, that psychiatrist, she had a patient that was literally addicted to crack cocaine, and he got over it through cold plunges because it was replacing
Yeah,
his
yeah,
addiction.
very similar, right?
Um, and yeah, with cold plunges and like cold showers, I don't do the cold plunge, but sometimes I'll do a cold shower. And like even if you really hate it, that type of thing, it's even better for you because
Yeah.
it's harder for you to do. And also it builds resilience. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Hmm.
And like another thing it does is it literally raises your tolerance so that you can deal with stress way better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you have real life trader friends throughout your whole trading journey?
No, and then actually, when we were at the meetup yesterday, I was talking about this. Like,
Yeah.
my friend got me into trading originally,
Yeah.
and then he kind of fell off, and I started just kind of learning it on my own.
Okay.
And I was by myself for like probably 5 or 6 years, just trying to learn it on my own.
Wow.
I would talk to people on forums and stuff, obviously, but I never had any
Real life.
like real friends, and I wouldn't even say real life friends, but I just didn't really try and reach out and network with other traders and build a relationship with them. Like I would message some people here and there, but it was never like a long lasting relationship. I would just ask them a couple questions and they'd be gone in a couple months. And then I think after I started studying ICTs like private mentorship, I ran into a good friend from Canada. I've never met him in person, but me and him like really connected a lot, and we would talk a lot about trading. And that was probably like one of the first like trader friends I had that I
Okay.
really resonated with and shared a lot of information with. And I think we both grew together. Like he gave me a lot of advice, just a life advice in general, not even trading advice.
Yeah.
Because he was kind of already profitable and he wasn't even really trading with ICT. So that kind of opened my eyes to things that, you know, there's plenty of other strategies out there that work. And it's more about how you're managing your emotions, how you're managing like growth. How do you grow as a person and like get used to losing? That was probably one of the hardest things that I had to deal with, and he helped me tremendously with that. But yeah, I think I met like the first trader in person probably. It was probably I think at the FX Summit
Okay.
like 2 years ago. Yeah,
Okay, awesome. Like, do you think that that like affected your trading and your mindset?
I think so because I started networking with more and more traders and started. I really started to build like a really solid network,
Yeah.
and you know I think it's so important to get other people's perspectives on the markets because
Hmm.
it's such a lonely game. And I think I was so lonely for so long, like I was trying to figure it out on my own,
Yeah.
that I would have grown faster if I had reached out to more people and asked them
Yeah.
questions.
That's what I was saying with myself too. It's like it gets really lonely, but not only that, like people that you could connect with over like losses and like the hard trading days, but it just like expands your mindset like to level up more because
Yeah.
like most people like day to day they don't understand what you're doing and like they don't have the same perspective of like getting out of the rat race for
Hmm.
example, and like they have a limited view of the world. So once you meet other people, especially if they're already profitable for a number of years, like for me it's just like leveled up my mind, like it currently still is leveling up my mindset to
Yeah.
like just like set higher goals and achieve more.
Yeah, I think one thing it opened my eyes to was that I wasn't the only person losing in the markets
Yeah.
because it felt like I was just terrible at trading, but that really wasn't the case. And then yeah, I started to just get more comfortable with the numbers. So I started getting more comfortable taking losses, just seeing other people losing and struggling just the same that I was, but they were still profitable. So if they could do it and struggle, then I probably could too. What about you? Did you have any like trader friends?
Yeah, like I had some online friends. Like we had a really small Discord group, and then of all of us learning ICT in like 2022, like five or six of us, and like I still talk to them.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was only until recently I started meeting with people in person, maybe like a year and a half ago, I think. And like I
Do you
was
think it's
saying,
been
just
different? Do you think it's been different than just talking to people online?
yeah, because then you just the connections are always way more true and genuine,
Yeah,
and like you don't really know someone
yeah,
until you meet with them in person and you like share experiences with
hmm,
them, like even just like a workshop or a dinner or you go golfing.
yeah,
And you then you can really see how someone's mind works,
hmm,
like even just talking about like golfing or like someone's perspective on like working out or something
hmm.
else.
For me, honestly, like every trader I run into, though, like
Yeah.
I would say that I'm pretty good friends with every trader that I run into. I don't think
Yeah.
I've met a trader that I don't get along with.
Yeah, because like the mindset's just so way different. Just even just like being an entrepreneur, I
Hmm.
think like I just think that most people have like a limited mindset of the
Yeah,
world, and then once you kind of break that mold, and I kind of think sometimes the world's like a simulation. Honestly,
yeah,
once you start seeing like you literally break this mental crutch that you have,
yeah.
I
I
think.
also think like a lot of traders share like a kind of a sick sense of humor.
Yeah,
Like I don't know what it is, but every trader that I've met has a pretty good sense of humor.
yeah, because like hey, if NQ's beating you down every other day,
Yeah.
you gotta crack a joke about
Yeah.
it. So I want to know, like, did you meet your wife before you were profitable?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've known my wife since like middle school,
Oh wow.
actually. Yeah, so a long time.
Okay. So she
Um,
was there since like you started
yeah,
trading?
yeah,
Like
pretty much. Like she
wow.
knew me before I started trading.
Wow, and you guys
Um,
were together?
so like we didn't start dating until college, but she knew me way before then.
Okay.
I dropped out of college, like
Yeah.
started getting into trading. We
Okay.
started dating. She's,
Okay.
you know,
So she was
I
very
was
much there
basically
with you.
like a bum at the time
Hmm.
because I dropped out of college. I didn't really have a job.
Hmm.
And I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So she was like, I'm about to break up with this guy.
Hmm.
So I had to go, I went back to college because I actually wanted to get into trading and
Hmm.
I wanted to actually work for like a prop firm or an
Okay.
actual hedge fund, not like an online
Yeah.
prop firm, obviously.
Okay.
But you know, I'm from New York too. I live a little bit upstate. the commute, like I know people in my area commute to the city, but I didn't want to commute to the city. And if I wanted an opportunity at like a real prop firm, that's kind of where I needed to go. I needed to go to New York City. But it's so far away. I would be commuting like 4 hours a day just to get to the city. So that wasn't really an option, and I got into construction. Yeah, but she's been with me ever since.
She's like your ride or die then.
Yeah, for real.
So then she helped your motivation then to get it together?
Yeah, she helped me with my motivation, and then she never told me to quit trading. Like I told her like at times I've blown accounts, like I've lost thousands of dollars. At one point, like I lost. When I was working, I had a decent sized account. It was like a $10,000 personal account, and that was like at the time it was like one of the biggest personal accounts I had ever put together. And then I lost like in a week, I probably lost like $4,000, and to me at the time it was a lot because I was only making like 50 or 60. After all expenses and everything, paying for rent, food, I didn't have a lot to save and set aside for a personal account. So saving up $10,000 as somebody that was only making, I don't know, $1,500 every 2 weeks, it takes a long time. And so I lost like half the account. At that point, I had to make a decision. Like I was like, either I'm gonna like take a break from trading, quit entirely, or marry this girl and like actually get my life together. So I actually took the rest of the money out of my trading account and bought her engagement ring.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I was like down to my last thread basically, and we were broke. We were so broke. Like she helped me so much with budgeting because as soon as we got engaged, we were like, all right, we got to save for a wedding now. We wanted to have a nice wedding because we both have really big families. So that kind of like changed my life entirely for sure.
Okay, that's honestly a really inspiring like couple story, power couple. So, but you said that she never told you to quit trading. She was always supporting you. But also at the beginning that she was like, I'm going to break up with this guy. Why? Because like you were dropped out of college. And you didn't.
I wasn't profitable. Like I didn't really have like a career path.
Okay, because like you were just kind of like indecisive of what you were
delivering pizza. I was delivering pizza. I was going to college part time. It wasn't like I had a clear path for my future.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. What was your first big purchase from trading?
Oh man, I honestly don't know. I didn't celebrate like big wins or anything. Geez. I don't know. I guess my first big purchase was like just buying more funded accounts. That sounds so stupid though.
But like you can even say something recently then,
I mean, so I guess like the real big purchase that I made was like a nice car.
Yeah.
Like that was but that was AMG Mercedes, but that was like way past me actually having a bunch of money. Like I waited. I definitely could have done it earlier. Yeah, somewhat. Okay. Like just because so in my previous job, I was around like a lot of high net worth people.
Okay.
And I just got their perspective that there were some people that had a lot of wealth that were happy, but there were also a lot of people that had a lot of wealth that were completely miserable. Like these people had everything in the world. They had vacation homes. They had probably $1 billion in net worth, but some of these people would just be in their houses and there would be no family or anything. They were just on the call, and they were just complaining all the time because we were in development, so they would complain to the developer about loud construction or people driving too fast in the roads. And I was like, you have like 10 other houses. You can just go to the other houses and live there. Yeah. Honestly, like once you're past a certain point, like money doesn't do anything extra for you. Like yes, you can buy nicer things. Yes, you can like take care of more people, but once you're past the point of like financial independence, right, to everybody that number is different, right? If you're just trying to cover your rent and your bills and have a little bit of disposable income, what are you going to do with the extra money past that, right? Like everybody probably wants luxuries and stuff, but once you have the basic necessities out of the way, like what else do you need? And I think part of that too was I lived in a pretty big home back in New York. We still own it, but I just found that it was so much upkeep and so much maintenance, and it's like added stress, so like I try and live a more minimalistic life now, and I think it's much easier. I live in a smaller apartment. I don't have to worry about raves going on.
So Kyle's basically saying more money, more problems, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, so like I live in a smaller apartment and I don't have to take care of as much stuff and I can really just focus on my trading.
Okay. Yesterday you had a hot take. You said that trading is only 10% technical and 90% psychological. Can you
Yeah,
expand
something
on
like
that?
that. I think I said 20%
Okay.
technical and the
Okay.
80%, maybe not 80% psychological, maybe, 40% process based and
Hmm.
40% psychological.
Okay.
Um, just because I think so many people spend so much time on the technicals. Like, I'm gonna ask every question I can, and I think part of it is becoming a teacher as well.
Hmm.
I have some students that they ask great questions, but sometimes they're asking questions that really aren't necessary in the moment.
Yeah, like they're
It's like,
irrelevant.
yeah, what about this level all the way up here? Or what about this one all the way down here? What about this? Or what about this?
Hmm.
And it's like, no, I only look at a couple different time frames, a couple different reasons to get into a trade, and that's it. Outside of that scope, I'm not looking at anything else. And I think too many traders get caught up in trying to add so much analysis that try to, maybe is going to add confidence to the trade, but really that doesn't add confidence to the trade. Because to me, you know, the trade has the same probability of working out, regardless of whatever technicals you lay on top of it. So,
Hmm.
like, if I learned a new strategy, the trade that I take tomorrow is not going to make it a higher probability setup. So
Hmm.
it doesn't make any sense to me. But that was because I spent so many years trying to find a technical edge. And I just kind of realized, all right, well, if I strip everything down and make things as simple as possible and as
Hmm.
binary as possible,
Hmm.
it eases a lot of stress. So to me, it's like the market's going to go up or it's going to go down. Do I manage my risk appropriately? Can I get in a good execution? And was the idea right or wrong?
Okay. So what time frames are you typically using?
So I think it's hard to so like just very simply put, I
Yeah.
basically use three different time frames.
Okay.
So if I'm gonna place like a swing trade or intra week trade, I'll use the weekly, daily, and probably the 4 hour or the 1 hour. But if I'm gonna trade intraday, I'll use like the 1 hour, the 15 minute, and the 5 minute. But I'm
Okay.
framing it the same way. I'm just holding it for different periods of time.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And if you could just use one time frame for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Um, Probably the hourly.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, just because it's like a good middle ground. Like it's fast enough, but it's
Yeah.
also slow where you could, kind of swing positions.
For me, I would be 15 minutes. So I
Yeah, you
guess,
think so?
yeah. But like, I think that you hold your trades way longer than I do.
Maybe. I
Like,
mean, like
how long do you typically hold
it's
your trades
different
for?
though. So with FX, and I
Yeah.
think I was speaking with a couple people about this. Like
Yeah.
Forex, it's more gradual movement, and that's something that I'm trying to adapt to as well. Because now I'm trying to trade more futures and
Hmm.
indices,
Hmm.
where the moves happen 30 minutes, an hour into the
Yeah.
open,
Yeah.
and you have to get out of the trade. Otherwise, it's going to come back on you.
Yeah.
So with FX, yeah, you kind of have to hold them longer because you might get a run in London, you might get a run in New York,
Okay.
and those trades I think pan out over the course of like 2 or 3 days. So
Oh,
I'll
okay.
try and trade within like the weekly
So
range.
how many trades do you take a week?
Um, I would say like 2 to 3 trade ideas, but
Okay.
on a specific day, if I have one trade idea, I might give it like 2 or 3 attempts.
Okay. Cool. Then would you say that over time that you take less trades now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Mhm.
you would not want to see my previous account statements for like when I was earlier in my career. There would be some days where I was like taking like 100 trades. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then at that also ties into like journaling. Like
Hmm.
when people take so many trades, like how are you learning from all those experiences and feedback? If you just take
Yeah.
one trade and actually sit down and analyze that one specific trade, you're going to learn much more than if you take 10
Mhm.
trades and then not want to journal them at the end of the day.
I mean, like you could argue saying that they have more data points, but let's be real. If someone's like taking like
Yeah,
50
you have
trades in
more
a
data
session, they're
points.
probably not going to journal it at all,
Yeah.
and they're probably just not going to. The quality is not going to be
Yeah,
there,
you're
right?
also adding work to your workload. So
Yeah.
like if you need a journal at the end of the day, what's easier, journaling two trades or
Yeah.
journaling 20 trades? You have to go in, you have to
Yeah.
figure out what your stop loss is, what your take profits were. Most people, if they're trading 30 times a day, they're probably deleting the short long tool, so they don't even know what the stop loss was
Yeah.
on their third trade out of
Yeah.
20.
I've also like used to do way too much over trading. It's like less now, And I would say it's because I just don't find it worth the risk. A lot of trades are not as high quality. So would you say that like that's the same for you? And has like your win rate then gone up then because you're being way more selective?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like there was times, and I think it might have been Rodrigo or Dodgy mentioned, how many of you in here have taken 7+ losses in a row? There were some days where I was taking way more than that in a single session. So, and when you're very selective about your trade ideas, to me, really, there should only be, one or two good decisions on the day. Let's say if you're trying to just find profitability, the candle's either going to close up or it's going to close down. Either you were right or wrong. I don't think you need 30 attempts to find out if you're right or wrong in a specific session.
Okay. So, and like, so basically you're just engaging with the market when you have like such a clear draw on liquidity. It's like, it would not make any sense if it went the other way. Like it would, you were almost certain.
Yeah, and then if it does go the other way and I'm wrong, then I'd rather get off the screens and do something else because my trade's already been invalidated. Because a lot of times, even intraday, I'm using an hourly level. So if an hourly level gets invalidated, typically I'm just going to be done for the day.
Yeah. Okay. Same thing for me. It's like I'll look at the structure and be like, okay, the amount of time that new structure has to form, it's not going to happen the rest of this trading session.
Yeah. And I think some of my worst days, it's like you're just sitting in the chair, just clicking the buttons.
Oh yeah.
And every setup that you take is failing.
With prop firms, do you think that there's a favored strategy of like higher win rate, lower RR, or lower win rate and higher RR? Because there might be trailing drawdowns.
Honestly, for most people, it's going to be higher win rate, lower RR. For most people, because I don't think, and it goes back to the patience thing. I don't think most people can hold a trade through to like one to threes, 1 to 4s.
Yeah.
Because the 1 to 3s and 1 to 4s, at least from my experience, those trades have a tendency of coming back on you a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to be comfortable holding through those up and down movements. Yeah, and if you're just an intraday trader, if you're quick to move your stops, it's going to be very difficult for you to even get comfortable with a 1 to 3, 1 to 4. The way that I look at it, you're trying to build up your, I guess, skill set and levels. So, if you can't even hit a 1 to 1 consistently, like what makes you think you could hit a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 3? So if you're struggling with, 1 to 3, why don't you knock it down to like a 1 to 2 or 1 to 1, and then get really proficient at that, and then start working your way up if you're trying to get more R value.
Yeah, I also agree with that because I think that most people, they not with like the patience part, which is definitely true, but I think they just can't handle losses well.
Yeah.
And that's what typically, snowball effect happens and then they lose the account. Or like you said, they're impatient, so they want the payout soon and like, oh, they don't want to have a drawdown.
I know.
And they'll deviate. It's more likely that someone will deviate from the strategy if they take a few losses. Yeah, definitely. I definitely
it's
agree
so
with that.
difficult. I mean, you've obviously seen the stats of like how many people are failing accounts. And I think once people figure out the math behind what they're actually doing, they'll have a much easier time. So everybody always asks me like, how much percentage do you risk on your prop firm accounts? Like sometimes don't even think about it like that. Think about like how many losses have you sustained in a row throughout your career? Then figure out how much you want to risk on a trade. So if you have a $2,000 drawdown limit, give yourself 20 attempts. And even if you do that, let's say you give yourself 20 attempts by risking whatever, $100 a trade, right? As you start going in a drawdown, you can give yourself more time by reducing the risk. Because let's say if you take 5 losses in a row, now you only have 15 trades left. If you start risking less, now all of a sudden you can have more trades.
Yeah.
So instead of having 15 trades left, now all of a sudden, if you reduce your risk in half, now all of a sudden you can have 30 trades before you blow the account. But I don't think people are thinking like that. I think people are just really trying to hit the payout, which they never do.
Yeah.
And they blow the accounts. So
would you advise people just risk way less, even though it'll take way longer to get to the payout?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because the most money that I made was because I was accumulating capital, not because I was trying to hit bigger trades.
Yeah.
So, when I was having like 6-figure months, like consecutive 6-figure months, I was doing a 0.25% risk, but it was on so much capital that I could do a 0.25% risk at a 1 to 2 daily. End of the month, I would make 2, 3, 4%, but it's on like $4 or $5 million in capital. So that adds up to a ton of money.
Yeah.
So that wasn't my goal. Was never to try and hit bigger trade. And most people are like, I'm going to hit a bigger trade.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Most people don't want to wait a whole month to get a payout.
Yeah.
So even though it's with the delayed gratification part of it for sure, they want to get to it in 1 week, and then the conditions are not right that week, and then they end up blowing the account.
Yeah, that's something that I struggled with for a very long time was, and I'm sure you probably have too. I would be up early in the week.
Yeah.
Like I would be crushing it early in the week, like up 5-10%, and then give it all back on Thursday and Friday. For what reason? So I found a way to, make money early in the week. And I just looked at it like, all right, if I can make my money early in the week, I can pretty much call the week off. And basically now I'm on vacation.
That happens with me typically if I make money earlier in the week. But for me, I see more of what I see with myself is actually I start the week in drawdown because I might be a little bit too trigger happy.
Yeah.
Especially like if it's
as soon
a Monday.
As the market opens.
Yeah. Not even like, yeah, exactly. And then that I've been able to cut down on. But you're so right. When the opposite is true, if I'm already up by Tuesday, like a good amount, then I'm like less likely to want to like risk bigger later on.
Yeah. How did you get to that point though? Because for me, it took a long time.
Yeah.
It's just like comfortability passing on the opportunity to make money. Because there's an opportunity to make money Thursday and Friday, but you still have to assume risk.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's literally what it is that thinking about whether or not it's worth the risk.
Yeah.
But all the time, every time I enter a trade, I'm like, is it worth the risk? Is it worth me risking whatever
I made?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever I made.
To me, it was never worth the risk because let's say even if you made money, well, there's two sides of it. You can make money, yes. But if you lose money, now all of a sudden you have a whole weekend that you have to get through, and you're like, I had a loss on a Friday. Now I have to think about it all weekend. You don't even have the opportunity to get out of it on Saturday.
Yeah, and like sometimes I like to think about it like, hey, that's not technically the end of the week. There's like 100 trades left, and your career is super long. But that's looking at it super logically, and we're not logical beings. We're emotional beings.
Yeah, because like if you end the week on a loss, it could ruin your whole weekend. Yeah, like you could be so mad, pissed off the entire weekend. To me, it's not worth it.
It's not worth risking the like a mental setback. Essentially, I agree with that. Okay, cool.
So like I think throughout my career, I've definitely gotten better of knowing what days to trade, knowing when to take a break, knowing when I'm like burnt out. And like you mentioned, you have to think about it like you're an athlete, and athletes don't play back to back games all the time. You can't physically or mentally do it with trading. Yes, you can physically do it. You can sit down in front of the desk and click a button, but mentally, I don't think most people will have that capacity.
Yeah, I know that took a while for me to understand as well. So you've been trading for 14 years, but really most of your success has come from, I think, the last 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you
looking back? I mean, it sounds pretty bad.
I mean, it sounds bad, but not really. I mean, what really got you to stay the course?
I think I gave myself I actually really got serious about it in like 2018 when I found ICT because I was really about to give up. And if you weren't in the trading space like before 2018, there wasn't as much trading information online. Like YouTube is now such a hub for trading information. Even people streaming, people weren't streaming their trades back then. So 7 years, if you went through that period, you understand how hard it was to come by traders, how hard it was to come by information. Yes, the information was out there, but it was like text format, books. Like that to me is kind of boring.
And forums.
And forums.
And you don't know like how high quality it is.
Yeah, and you have no idea. You can't gauge if this person actually knows what they're talking about just based on a screenshot and some text.
Yeah.
Right. With YouTube, at least you can tell if somebody's confident about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that you can resonate with. And yeah, I don't know. I started taking it super seriously, like I think in 2018, because I got so tired of jumping through hoops and trying to find new strategies. I mean, I was stuck in that like strategy rabbit hole for so long.
What like kept you going? Like what, or like after you took a break, what got you to come back?
Just the fact that like you can see people. There was people around, not around me, but I saw people making a living out of trading, and it just offers you the opportunity to not have to work for somebody else. But for the longest time, I was probably like most traders out there. I was treating it like a hobby. I was like, I'm a trader
Yeah.
but not really a trader, because everybody can say they're a trader, but unless you're journaling and doing the work and actually working on yourself and trying to improve on specific things week in, week out, you're not actually a trader.
Okay, so basically your advice is to start treating it as a business instead of a hobby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
I
And
agree.
I think I probably got an advantage from being in a real proper business. Like for the longest time, I wasn't in like a real career. I had some like menial jobs and stuff. But then as I worked my way into like an actual career, I saw how like an actual business is operating.
If you could give a beginner trader one piece of advice, what would it be?
I was thinking about having like a couple pieces of advice.
Okay.
One piece of advice though would probably just to be to stick to something. Stick to something until you find out if it works or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did not stick with anything for long enough to find out if it worked or not. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
constantly hopping back and forth between things. And you're never going to find out if a strategy works if you don't stick with it, like in the live market environment, at least for 2 quarters, 3 quarters.
Okay.
Like, don't abandon it just because it's not working for a quarter. You don't know if that next quarter is going to be a great one. So, that's why trading takes so long, I think, is the trial and error.
Yeah.
And most people just abandon something when it's not working for them
Right.
without really putting in the work behind. Does this thing actually work? Because I know there's traders out there that are trading trend lines. Like I started with trend lines. If I just stuck to trend lines, I probably would have been fine if I could get my risk and my psychology,
Mm-hmm.
in tap. But my risk and my psychology was so messed up that I thought it was the trend lines when it
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a great piece of advice, I think. All just comes back to delayed gratification, I
Yeah.
think, right? Yeah. Well, Kyle, thanks so much for joining me. I know I learned a lot from this interview. So, where can others find you?
So they can find me on YouTube, JadeCap, Twitter, JadeCap_, and Instagram, JadeCap official.
Okay, awesome. Make sure to head over there and make sure to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you guys next time.